Thank you so much for agreeing to this interview. This is the Arbitration Pitch with Lauraine Darkwah, and we're just moving around the globe finding arbitration practitioners and learning from their experience. So please tell us what you've been doing in this arbitration space, what Amanda Lee has been up to.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here, and I'm very glad that your jurisdictional travels have brought you to London.
Yes.
and to my office.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much for coming to see me. As for what I've been up to recently, well, there's been a lot of traveling. I've been traversing the globe and speaking at a lot of events. So that's been great fun. In terms of my general background, I began my career in arbitration less as a result of design and more as a result of delegation.
Right.
Because I joined a boutique international dispute resolution practice, and that was what I ended up doing. So I continue to practice arbitration alongside other disciplines ending in shun, so litigation, construction adjudication, mediation, negotiation, and so on and so forth. And nowadays, I also have the pleasure and privilege of sitting as an arbitrator. I'm sitting at the moment in a case seated in the Middle East, for example. And I have the pleasure of teaching. So I teach for the University of Law in the UK, my alma mater, although back in the good old days when I was there, it was the College of Law,
right?
The University of Law,
Change
showing
of name.
my age there.
Yeah.
And of course, I run Careers in Arbitration or Balance and the Women in Arbitration Friday News Digest.
Well done. I believe you are doing so much across the globe, and I think all young people are very, very grateful for the work you're doing in arbitration. You mentioned that you sit as an arbitrator. When did you have your first appointment, and how did it happen?
Well, I usually say that the story of my almost first appointment was far more impressive than the story of my actual first appointment. It was a number of years ago now. I wish I could remember exactly which year it was, and it's about 2017, 2016, something like that. And I was nominated to sit in 4 sets of related proceedings between parties based in the US and Hong Kong, I think it was, subject to the LCIA rules. And I thought, this is wonderful, this is fabulous. It's like the dream beginning to practice as an arbitrator. And unfortunately, every single respondent went into liquidation one after another before I could be appointed. So I was nominated, but I was never appointed because, of course, there was no point pursuing the proceedings once liquidation proceedings commenced. So that was my almost first appointments, plural. My actual first appointment was in a documents-only travel arbitration involving people who were very upset with the description of their vacation not measuring up to the reality. In fact, the description was far superior to the reality. So disgruntled holidaying parties. And of course, there are no small disputes. And I was very happy to have the opportunity to start sitting, and the rest is history. And I think I'm on number 29 now.
Whoa!
So,
well done.
Thank you very much.
Well done. So is there a particular way you positioned yourself to ensure that you were visible, or to make people know that you were available to take up the appointments?
Well, I think I'm the slightly unusual case in that after I became a member of the Institute, the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, and then I became a fellow, I started getting a few inquiries about sitting. So I will have been a fellow for 10 years this year.
Wow.
So it's been a while, and around about that time, so about 10 years ago, I started getting a few inquiries, and they tended to be things like, will you sit in an appointment relating to a boundary dispute? And I was thinking, that's not really my special subject, and yes, I do handle litigation involving property from time to time, but it does tend to be commercial property rather than boundary disputes. So I'm not the right person for this. I had another approach to sit in a Middle Eastern seated case, and again, I thought, I'm not the right person, I don't have experience of this specific set of rules, so, I think at the beginning of my potential career as an arbitrator, I spent more time saying no than saying yes, which I think is something that people don't always emphasize to aspiring arbitrators.
Right.
One of the most important things you need to recognize is when you should say no. Don't be in too great a hurry to say yes to absolutely everything simply because you want to get that first appointment. You need to be ready, and you need to feel that you're going to be able to do the best job you can do for the parties, because it's a heavy responsibility. So I started saying no to things, and then eventually began to say yes to things. I do still say no to things. Right. So I remain committed to my belief that sometimes you're not the right person for the job.
Right.
But in terms of how did I position myself, I didn't really do anything specific in terms of advertising that I was suddenly setting out my stall as an arbitrator. What I had been doing for a number of years, though, is I had been accumulating positions of responsibility, shall we say. So I had been demonstrating to the market that I was capable of leading groups, I was capable of making decisions, I was capable of speaking in complete sentences, which is important. So that I think did help, and the Chartered Institute was a big part of that, because I had the privilege of sitting on a number of committees in my capacity as fellow.
Right. So does that mean that as young people, taking up opportunities or positions in some of these organizations could directly lead to appointments?
Absolutely. Getting involved in the arbitration community is key. We talk a lot about the importance of joining young practitioner organizations.
Right.
The obligation does not begin and end with the completion of the little forum on the internet.
Right.
You have to make what you can of the opportunity. So you join, but you don't stop there. You join, you find ways of getting involved, you go to events, you offer to publish, you offer to help arrange events, you offer to speak, and so on and so forth. Only by putting yourself forward and actually getting involved are you going to start building the professional relationships that will one day, hopefully in the fullness of time, turn into potential appointments. And I say potential because nobody should be becoming a committee member purely for self-interested reasons. You should be doing it to give back, to build relationships, and so on and so forth, not because the only thing you care about is getting appointments.
Right.
But if you're very lucky, if you do it the right way, if you demonstrate that you've got what it takes, then in the fullness of time you may be lucky enough to receive appointments due to the visibility that is a byproduct of your involvement.
Right. Thank you so much, Amanda. I hear you speak about speaking appointments, I hear you speak about conferences, and a lot of young people are saying that, look, these conferences are expensive, I can't afford to go for these conferences. What would you advise they do in this regard to make sure that they kind of enter into this network of arbitration practitioners?
Well, we're very lucky nowadays in that many opportunities are available online, so that's a great place to start. Some of these online conferences do include networking elements as well, so you can have the opportunity to participate. There are also a number of initiatives, including initiatives that specifically target women, that enable you to focus on networking and hearing from particular individuals. So Young Mute Off Thursdays, for example, is a good opportunity to hear from women from all over the world and build yourself into that community. In terms of budget, of course, we all have resource limitations unless we are independently wealthy, and most people in this field are not, and that's fair enough. So you need to be strategic. Think about where you're going to get the most bang for your buck, as it were. If you're going to pick conferences to attend, start by beginning to attend events in your home jurisdiction, and that will minimize at least the travel costs.
Right.
There are also sometimes opportunities to gain scholarships to attend. So there are a number of initiatives that offer funded places to get involved in conferences. There are also initiatives that will sometimes welcome students and young people who are keen to participate in return for supporting the event, drafting articles about the panels, and otherwise giving back. So sometimes you can sort of barter your time in return for a seat at the table. So think outside the box.
Wow. I think a lot of times most of us are waiting for someone to come to us with a speaking opportunity or come to us to tell us about a conference, but I guess it's more about going out there, finding out what is available and making the most of any opportunity you actually get. So Amanda, I'd like you to look in the camera now and just speak to young people. Are there 3 things that they need to do to ensure that they are great arbitration practitioners? You know, if you had just 3 things to tell the upcoming young group of arbitrators from all over the world what they should do to ensure that they make the most out of their time, they become the best in the field, what are the 3 things they should do?
All right, 3 things for the next generation of arbitration and practitioners. First of all, remember that the people who put in the sorry,
don't worry, let's take it again.
Sorry. All right. Hello, young practitioners of the future. First of all, remember the people who work the hardest tend to be the people who get the opportunities. This is a very competitive field, and you need to put the work in, you need to put the time in, you need to put the effort in. So work hard. That's my first point. I know that seems obvious, but it's important.
Right.
Second, when opportunities are presented to you, say yes. When you're my age, you need to start saying no. But at the beginning of your arbitration practice, you need to say yes. So if somebody says, will you consider co-authoring an article with me? Say yes. If somebody wants you to consider joining a committee, say, of course, I'll look at it. Get involved, become part of the community. And last but not least, third. Just proving I can count, you see. I've got you covered when it comes to the quantum section of your arbitration award, folks. So number 3, remember a career in arbitration is a marathon, not a sprint. It is all very well doing absolutely everything, but at the end of the day, it's really important that you look after yourselves and you achieve balance. It's much easier to throw yourself into this field at the beginning of your career. You're young, you'll bounce back, you're likely to be a little bit healthier, but this is a marathon and you do not want to burn out and blaze too brightly before you celebrate your 30th birthday. So make sure that you do not just become a workaholic. Make sure that you take time for yourself, that you take time for your family and for your friends, that you go and see the sunshine occasionally, that you embrace nature, that you eat properly, that you don't live at your desk and end up with the kind of chronic neck and back problems I have. Look after yourselves.
Right. Thank you so much, Amanda. The last question for you would be, when Amanda is not posting on LinkedIn or sitting as an arbitrator or a mediator, or when she's not teaching her students or spending time with family, what will she be doing?
That's a very good question. I will be, if I'm not in an airport lounge, I will be dancing Argentine tango, practicing yoga, swimming. Those who follow me on LinkedIn will know swimming is a very big part of my sort of mental health regime. I will be writing rhyming stories for children, which I do from time to time, which is good fun. I like writing things other than LinkedIn posts occasionally. And I will be running on Hampstead Heath. I live opposite a very big park, and I like running, so I do a lot of running.
Thank you so much for your time, Amanda. We are so grateful, and I believe we've all learned something from this conversation with Amanda. So see you next time on the Arbitration Pitch with Lauraine Darkwah. We've had Amanda Lee with us. Thank you so much, and bye-bye.